Avatar Frontiers of Pandora was a bit of an enigma to me. The announcement trailer told us basically nothing about the game, but Massive Entertainment has made some of my favourite Ubisoft games in the past generation with the Division series, so I had pretty high hopes going in. After playing about 2 hours of Avatar last week, I was shocked by the incredible detail in the world, a fluid combat system, a relatively deep crafting system, and I can't wait to play more. If you have any questions about Avatar that I don't answer in this video, put them in the comments and I'll try and help you out. Massive Entertainment are developing Avatar, and they're also doing Star Wars Outlaws next year, and having two big licensed titles on your hands in such a short release window is a pretty big undertaking, and it's been years since we had an Avatar game, or a movie really, until recently. Frontiers of Pandora is set on the other side of the planet during the events of the Way of Water movie, so this is a canon story in the Avatar world, and Massive has been working with Lightstorm Entertainment to ensure that the game fits with the Avatar world, and like, my god, they have absolutely nailed the world. Watching the original Avatar wasn't like watching a typical movie. There was this sense of wonder that you felt like while watching it, this alien world in 3D with these incredible visuals that you hadn't seen before, and that whole oversaturated and really colorful world that you're sort of experiencing at the same time as Jake Sully was absolutely incredible. And the forest in the preview gives me that exact same feeling. So during the preview, we only got to play in this forest area, but there are other regions in the game, and the density of the foliage and the detail in the plants was like the first thing that blew me away. All those like plants and things that you would remember from the films, like those little big circly plants that like suck in and they go whoop, and they like suck down, and those other plants, you know what I mean. But there's all this incredible detail that is really reflected in the game world, and like the floating mountains and flying above the forest on the Ikran was simply incredible. Like, I couldn't help but smile when I bonded with my Ikran and was able to actually fly for the first time in those music moments. As the music builds, it feels very Avatar, and it was incredibly enjoyable. But what really has me intrigued about this whole world structure is, we did only get to see a very tiny slice of that open world. We were only able to explore that forest area, like the Kingla Forest. And in the trailers we've seen, there are other clans and vastly different areas and regions, like the open plains of the Horse Clan. And y'all know that I love open worlds, and being able to explore different, diverse open worlds is something that I really enjoy. So I'm very interested to see what else this world has to offer. But I'm also mildly worried about the dynamicness of this open world. So it took me about an hour and a half to do the 4 main missions that we were given, and I'll talk about all of that in a little bit. But for the next 30 minutes, I was just sort of free roaming around the area of the game that we had access to. And during this time, I ran across different creatures and the occasional Na'vi, some hidden chests, and some RDA. But other than like the creatures that I stumbled across, the other locations felt a little too spread out, and it felt like there were lots of times when I wasn't really actively seeking out something or seeing something in the distance, being like, oh, what's that? I want to go over there. Now, that could be a byproduct of the fact that this forest is extremely dense, and it's like very hard to actually see far in front of you, so you don't get that sort of, that buzz when you see something in open world games. You're like, oh, what's that? You want to go over there and do that. So that could be because of the area. It could also just be, something to do with the preview build, but it was just something that I noticed. And, I'm very interested to see how they actually fill out this world. And the world isn't just for looks, though. It also extends to the crafting system. So with this Na'vi sensors that you can bring up, it's sort of just like a scanner, really. You can scan all the plants and the animals, learn about their lore and what resources you can gain from them by bringing up like your hunter's guide, which we can't show you any of the menus, but there's a menu that you can bring up that'll give you like lore about the creature or the plant. It'll also tell you the resources you can gather from it, as well as for animals, they have parts that are, say, armored or even weak points. It reminds me very much of the dinosaurs in Horizon, how you could like bring up that menu and see like what materials you can get from them, what parts they're, are armored and weak areas, that sort of a thing. And I actually really love this, and it creates that sense of discovery and mystery. And these plants and animals aren't just for looks, right? Like, you've got to harvest them as well to grab their materials for, say, cooking, to give you buffs, or crafting for new weapons and armor. And it's not just as simple as like, killing these things or picking up these materials. You've got to actually harvest the plants in the right way, in the right conditions, to maximize its quality. And some of the animals, you need to kill them mercifully for for the same reason, because, you know, it creates that feeling. It's the same as the movies where they talk about how interconnected, you know, the world is and the circle of life and everything. And it feels very consistent with the Avatar lore. And I really dug that. And while I didn't get to go super deep into either the cooking or the crafting system, there does seem to be a fair amount of complexity there in not only getting the recipes to create, say, a new like longbow, for example. You've got options as to what actual material you want to use to put into that, which will then add different effects to it or improve its quality, that sort of a thing. So there is complexity there, and I really can't wait to see more of that and get deeper into that system.
We'd lay down here and tell each other stories about the stars. I felt so grown up then.
She made you feel important.
It was the stories of the Kingdor I loved most.
Well, I've been pretty positive so far. There are some things I didn't actually dig, and one of them is probably the story. Now, the caveat here is that we were dropped in about 25% through the game, so we're like partway through the story. We have no idea who these characters are or any of that stuff. So I'll reserve like my actual criticisms for the narrative when I've played the entire narrative for like my review. But one thing that really stood out to me was the main character and the writing. I wasn't a huge fan. The writing seems very just like, you know, cookie cutter, like to push the plot forward, and just the main character's voice actor I didn't really vibe with, or the way they presented their lines. It didn't feel very Na'vi to me, but I guess in a way it's supposed to, because your character has been in cryosleep for 15 years, essentially from like the events of the first movie. After those events, they get put in cryosleep, they wake up at the start of the events of Way of Water, and then that's essentially where like your journey begins. So in a way, it does make sense as that's sort of the character you are playing, but also it's hard to connect with the character that does feel very disconnected and didn't really have much of a personality in any of the cutscenes and things that were presented. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more there. But the positive is that the clans. So we know that there are going to be at least 3 clans, and the one clan that we got to play around with, the Aranahi clan. I'm probably butchering that name so badly, but there is definitely some interesting dynamics happening there with Knut, the leader of the clan, and Itawa, butchering these names terribly, but like the daughter and sort of the power struggle there. So that connection to the game world and its characters may actually come from the NPCs and the clans themselves rather than the character that you are playing, but I am interested to see how that does develop. There will apparently be Easter eggs from the films too. I just wanted to mention that before I forget that even though this is set on the other side of the planet, there will be Easter eggs based on the films.
You need to hit those 2.
I'll try.
Massive have made great combat systems before, and it seems like Avatar has definitely got those roots in built. So you have a weapon wheel that you can bring up, and you can pick between Na'vi weapons like short bows and long bows and heavy bows, as well as like a sling weapon that had like trip mines and stuff on it. I really enjoyed that, and using the sling in stealth scenarios to like pick off enemies. You also got the RDA weapons, just like your typical military hoo-ha, you know, assault rifles, that sort of a thing. The sling is what's really interesting to me, as it creates different opportunities in combat, like setting up those trip mines and allowing you to interact with combat in different ways. The weapons all felt good, had a nice weight to them. The RDNA assault rifle didn't have like an aim down sights, which I thought was a little weird. I don't know if that's like a skill I had to unlock, but I would have liked a little bit more sort of recoil and weight to the assault rifle, but all the Na'vi weapons felt really good to use. And combat isn't just on the ground, you can also fight while on your Ikran, and I took down a few helicopters while on my Ikran and really enjoyed like shooting my bow at like the dudes on the helicopter and like knocking them out of the helicopter. It was a great time. Weapons also have mods that can be used to enhance their functionality, as well as different like damage stats, and there is overall like a power level that your character will have based on the equipment that they have, and how that translates to anything in the game world, like if there's certain areas you can't take out or deal with. It does seem like that is the case, but how restrictive that is, we don't really know yet. And speaking of those skill trees, there is 5 skill trees that are all based around specific parts of your character's kit. So you've got something like the warrior for like your combat skills, survivor for like your overall health and energy, hunter for your hunting and like gathering materials, rider for anything to do with your Ikran companion and their abilities, and maker for the crafting and cooking abilities. This isn't the deepest skill system that you've ever seen, but there is actually tangible upgrades in here. Like as soon as I unlocked my Ikran companion, I unlocked the barrel roll skill, which allowed me to barrel roll, which was great for those like combat encounters when in the air. I did really like a whole lot of the time I spent in Avatar. I do have those couple of concerns, being that dynamicness of the world, that sort of alive feeling you get in open worlds, if you sort of know what I mean. I feel like that can be tuned and like changed. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it was just a byproduct of the limited amount of time that we did have. The difficulty also felt really easy in a lot of these combat scenarios. And now while fighting the RDNA, whether in their big mechs or just, you know, smashing them with giant arrows, it did feel easy. And I think that's probably a byproduct of the preview session as well. There'll be difficulty settings that you can tune. I would love to know how in depth some of that crafting and resource system actually goes. Like, what is the depth there? How do you get those new recipes? How do they actually work? Like, is it really worth investing in that system, or is it better to just use the weapons that you find out in the world or get from like quest rewards, that sort of a thing? And there does also seem to be like a standing, like a reputation with these clans, as you can either like donate to their community basket or complete side quests for them. You do seem to increase that standing. What that actually does, what you gain from that, I would like to understand a bit more, and if it's like sort of worthwhile. But overall though, I walked away from my Avatar preview just like straight up impressed. Like, there is clearly a ton of love for the Avatar franchise that has gone into crafting this open world and its systems and actually feeling like an Avatar game. And I was really surprised at how it sort of gave me those Horizon vibes rather than just being like Far Cry Blue Edition or something, like, which is I think a common thing I've seen people discuss, and something that I was worried about as well is it was just going to be a Far Cry reskin, but it definitely doesn't feel like that. This feels like its own experience. It feels like an Avatar experience, and I cannot wait to play more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.